Welcome to Cozy How To, your place for a snugly warm learning experience. This is lesson number 6 for the Ecwid Shopping Cart software, and in this lesson I'm going to go over a further explanation of how a destination zone works. So let's go ahead and get started. As you can see on screen, I've got some information here, and I'm going to walk you through the process through this diagram. So let's look at the first part here, the country, state, and zip code. That is basically the different types of regions that you can have. Country being the first and the largest area or region that you can have, state being the second largest area or region you can have, and zip code being the smallest area or region that you can have. Okay, so with that said, I'm going to now take a look at the attribute section. The attribute, if you remember from lesson number 4, is just basically the different attributes that you can have in relationship to the destination zones or areas. In this case, the country, state, and zip code. Okay, so let's now take a look at the first scenario. The first scenario we have is assuming that you add a country of USA, okay, and then we automatically get all the states and all the zip codes within the USA. If we add a country of USA for the area or region, you automatically get all the states and zip codes within the USA. So what that means is, if you add that country and it includes all states or zip codes, any customers that live within the USA, regardless of state or zip code, will be charged a tax rate of 8% and a shipping cost of $10, assuming that you set your tax attribute at 8% and your shipping cost at $10 in relationship to the area or region of the USA. Okay, so hopefully you understand that first scenario. It includes everything if you list it by the country. Okay, and you don't add anything for a state or zip code. It automatically includes both of those. Now let's take a look at this second scenario. The USA will be our added region or area. Okay, and then we add a state. In this case, we add Michigan as one of our areas or regions within the USA. But for zip code, we add none. So what would happen in this scenario? Let's assume that the customer lives in the USA, but they don't live in Michigan. Okay, and we don't have to worry about the zip code because we didn't define a variable for zip code. So if the customer lived in the USA but didn't live in Michigan, then that would mean that for our attributes, we would not be able to ship an item to them. In other words, if a customer came to your shop that lived in the USA but didn't live in the state of Michigan, they would get a message saying that the item is not available for shipping. Because the way that the Ecwid system works is you have to pass every test for every area or region that you add. So in other words, yes, they lived in the USA, but they didn't live in any of the states that you listed under the state, area, or region. Now, if they lived in, for example, Texas, and we listed both Texas and Michigan as one of our states, if they lived in Texas but didn't live in Michigan, then they would pass all the tests. So in other words, they have to pass at least one of the tests in each of these phases, assuming that we set something for each of these phases. So in the first phase, we set USA as the country. In the second phase, we set Michigan and Texas as the different states that we have available. And although they didn't live in Michigan, they lived in one of those states, in this case Texas. And assuming that we put none for zip code again, they would be able to have that item shipped to them. So if they live in the USA and they live in Texas but they don't live in Michigan, they can still have that item shipped to them, and shipping would be available, and they would be charged $10 for shipping and a tax cost of 8%. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense to you, and I'm actually going to put a line through here so that you can see that all together. So when we explained the last scenario, we included 2 states and we set it to none for the zip code. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense to you, and if it does, don't forget to embed, comment, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for future tutorials from Cozy How To.